Hello and welcome to PS, Such a Connection. I'm P.
And I'm S, and we're here to talk about Monday night's episode of The Bachelorette.
So we're going to start off with the one-on-one dates, both of them. And Chase was on that first one-on-one date.
Chase was on the first one, and they went to hot yoga.
Yeah, like super hot yoga.
More than one way.
Yeah. So at the start, it was very awkward, and even when the woman who was teaching them asked Jojo and him, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she asked when they had been intimate. And Jojo had her arm around Chase, and she took her arm away and then pushed herself away from him. And I was
really?
like...
Not, like, playfully?
No, like... It was, like, an awkward, like, she was still looking at the instructor and just kind of, like, got away.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure she didn't do it necessarily, like, intentionally, but just, like, felt really uncomfortable in that moment.
I've been thinking about a lot of these dates and how they start off. They're, like, intentionally awkward. They're, like, this whole... angergasm, like making them like flail around on the ground.
Yeah.
It's putting them in an awkward, silly position, and like I don't know if that's detrimental, or maybe this puts them in a situation where like all of their like posturing comes down and they're not trying to be like so cool or trying to impress because they have to be ridiculous and embarrassed. So I'm not sure if having awkward dates at the beginning maybe helps things along. And maybe that's why, or if they're really just trying to make good TV and stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to make these boring one-on-one dates more interesting. Oh, another helicopter ride?
I would go on a helicopter ride. They could do something awkward on a helicopter ride, like the pilot could pretend that the plane is crashing and they could fear for their lives or whatever, and Jojo could be like, ha, played a joke on you, we're not dying, and the guy would be like,
not funny. Okay.
No, it's fine. So yeah, the really only thing that I wrote down was that Jojo kept saying that it was awkward throughout the first course of that, and I was like, this is not really going very well.
Yeah. And I thought maybe partly because, and I like Chase, but he's not silly. So instead of like being silly with it, which maybe would have made it less awkward, they tried to take it like, I don't know, they didn't try to take it seriously, but they couldn't be as silly with it.
Yeah.
As maybe she could have with a different guy.
Yeah.
And so maybe that added to her feeling like, oh, we can't be silly, but this is ridiculous, so we can't be serious, so what do I do? So that kind of creates an awkward feeling.
But they did end up well, where they, like, made out and they were, like, on top of each other's laps and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And I felt like chemistry.
Yeah, at that point, it turned around, because before that, I definitely thought that he wasn't going to get a rose.
Really?
And he was, yeah, because she just kept talking about how awkward it was for her, and I was like, even if, you know, they have a nice talk, like, if she feels this awkward doing something with him,
then
she would send him home.
Gotcha.
But it came around, it turned around, and they figured it out.
That's all I got about Chase.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
I just had that they talk about how his parents are divorced and marriage is really important to him, and he only wants to be with one person for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it gives you kind of an insight into him, but they didn't really show that much more of their conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
And he did get the rose, so he did stay.
Yeah, and, I think overall it was a good day. Yeah.
So then the second one-on-one date was with James Taylor.
And James Taylor was, like, adorably shot. Like, he was like, me? Me?
And he's gotten a lot of one-on-one time with her, too, because he won the second group date.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to me that she chose him.
Which I think she said on the date, the reason she chose him was to see if it could go beyond a friendship. Mm-hmm. So maybe she wasn't feeling as romantic. Like, she likes him, mm-hmm. but she wasn't feeling the chemistry, the connection. And I think, yeah, I mean, they had a good date.
Mm-hmm. They went swing dancing, by the way. They were taught how to swing dance, yes. And then they walked out onto the street, and there were people swing dancing.
It was adorable. Jojo looked gorgeous.
Like,
it was incredible.
I loved everything about her. The outfit, her face, like, everything was perfect.
Oh my gosh. And James Taylor, see, I almost feel like he did great on the date. He, like, owned up, like, he's like, I can't dance, but he still had fun, mm-hmm. and he can be, so he almost would have been also good on the yoga date.
Yeah. And he also, like, I think was more into it than she was a little bit. Like, she was more reserved about it, but he was, like, dancing in the street, and he was like, come on, dance, and she was like, but I have to be super perfect and awesome, and she is super perfect and awesome, but it would have been nice for her to loosen up a bit more. But I think that him being so loose helped her to be less uncomfortable than she would have been.
Yeah. And then they walk out and they have all these swing dancers. It was mm-hmm. so cool. It was something that, like they said, it would happen in a musical, and I want my life to be a musical. I was really jealous. And a note that I had is that I liked that James Taylor, and I'm sure it happens more often than they show, but I guess just because they don't show it as often. At the end, James Taylor was like, you guys are all awesome. He, like, addresses the dancers mm-hmm. and how cool, like, how, I just really liked it.
Yeah. James Taylor is he's definitely on the top of my list, even if he's not on the top of JoJo's list. And I think that he is currently towards the top of JoJo's list. So he did get the rose, and
he talked about...
He sang.
He sang.
Which, like, it's only getting on my nerves because I know he's gonna do it every single time that they do anything together.
Yeah.
And, like, it's cute. It's definitely cute, but it's so much.
It's a lot.
It's so much.
It's like this Bachelorette experience is already over the top, like, mm-hmm. romanticizing, fantasizing, cheesing. Like, you're adding a layer of, like, cheese. Mm-hmm. And, like, as genuine as you can be about it, you're still, like, serenading your woman.
Yeah.
Like, it's like...
And also, okay, so this is, like, a little mini rant that, like, I know it doesn't matter that much in the whole course of things, but, like, you're in this kind of situation and you're writing a song for this person every week. But as soon as this is over, are you still going to be writing a song for her every week if you end up engaged? Yeah. Like, I doubt it. And even if he did, I mean, that's great. I would be like, please stop singing to me. But that's just me. Like, maybe JoJo loves it. But still, it's kind of like a false advertisement of what you're going to do for someone.
Right.
And again, like, I know this is a show about romance, so of course you're gonna go in and do something like that. So I'm not, like, mad at him about it, but it just made me think about that for a second.
Right. I wrote down that, so he talked a little bit about his self-consciousness about his looks, which mm-hmm. is interesting because the bachelors are all chosen, like, to be hot. Like, James Taylor, like, but I like guys that grew into hotness. Yeah. Because guys who were, like, hot from birth they're cockier,
yeah.
I feel. So I like that James Taylor was like, you know, I'm not used to being thought I'm attractive, and I just think you're so beautiful.
And
so
I think there is also a thing where he's in a house with guys who are ripped.
Yeah.
And he's got a nice body, but he's not ripped.
Right, yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, yeah, I thought it was a nice, vulnerable moment. It's good.
So he did get the rose. I think I already said that. And now we're moving on to the group date.
Group dates, which is where most of the stuff went down.
Yeah, so I think along with this group date, we're going to talk about the stuff that happened in the house, because there wasn't a rose ceremony tonight.
Yeah.
And there also wasn't the cocktail party. Like, that's going to be in next week's episode. Or
tomorrow's episode.
Pool party.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, tomorrow's episode. So, I guess we're just going to go straight from the date into all of the drama that happens, including the stuff that happens on that date.
Yes. So, 12 guys go on this group date, and right from the get-go, they're leaving, and Alex is like, 10 guys? Wait, he goes... Like,
he said 10 guys, 1 douchebag, and me.
Yeah.
Going on this date.
Which was pretty excellent.
It was a great line. I don't think he wrote that himself, but I give props to whoever came up with that. If it was him, great on you. But.
Great, Alex. Which, I want to talk more about Alex later. But, so, and Chad goes right into the date saying, meh, 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 there are other men on this date. Like, that's what you signed up for. That's what you signed up for. So, and the date was sex talks.
Yeah, well, it was like sex comedy stories.
Yeah.
And they watched
comedy, sex stand-up.
A couple of people talk about their sex stories before.
And all of them were like...
Jordan's face was amazing. I think he had the best face, which is why they kept showing it, and he was, like, so uncomfortable. He was also sitting next to Jojo. But
yeah, that could probably add it to it. But that, to me, goes along with the awkward date thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And, again, I don't know if this is... Because it could be taken, like, in a bad way, just, like... from the previous episode where they had the whole, like, marriage proposal thing. Like, is this too much too early?
Yeah.
But it could also be, in the right way, taken lightheartedly. And, like, this is just part of the Bachelorette thing. Like, gimmicks and dates, whatever.
And I think that, you know, they didn't have to tell a real story. I don't think that... I mean, maybe they were encouraged to tell a real story, but I feel like there's leeway to just make something up that's funny.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, not everyone has funny sex stories.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
But, so, off the bat, Chad was like, I'm not doing this because... he doesn't do anything fun.
He's seriously, when you shoot down everything.
Everything that you didn't think of as a bad idea.
Yeah, and just, like, not being excited about
anything.
Like, I don't know. I even feel like if he were to go on one of those other group dates, he would have been, like, swing dancing. That's... Ew. Like, I don't know Jojo well enough to swing dance with her.
Like, he doesn't know Jojo well enough for anything. He's like, I don't even know her. She doesn't know me. She doesn't deserve this story from me. Like...
just make something up and don't do what you did, because that was bad. But we'll get into that later.
I thought that a lot of the guys... Well, they showed, like, snippets of most of the guys. And, again, similar to the previous group date, a lot of them did really well, I thought. They had these funny, like...
I loved Nick B's, and I didn't know it was him while it was happening, but I looked later and it was him. And I can't remember what he was talking about, but...
I think he was talking about fellatio.
Oh, really? I don't even remember. I just remember being like, okay, he's doing this the right way. It was fun. Like,
Maybe
the
I'm
little
thinking
clip
of
that they
someone else.
showed was cute and funny. I don't know. Like, everything kind of just went out of my head as soon as all of the drama started with Chad. But, and I also couldn't figure out who he was. So I was like, I liked that.
Was it?
I don't know who it is.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely Nick B.
Someone was talking about, like, that with the alphabet.
Yes.
That one. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Nick B is kind of moving up on my list.
Yeah.
Because I thought he was really great last week on the group date as well, with his dancing in the background and being adorable and stuff. So,
with the little snippets you get of him, like...
Yeah, but you never see him interact with Jojo,
no,
so
never.
God knows.
Yeah. So, then Chad comes on. And like we said before, Chad refuses to participate in anything.
Well, right before he came on, too, was when he grabbed Evan's shirt.
Oh, okay, I forgot about... This is when everything started with Evan, so...
Because Evan decides that it's necessary to basically diss Chad on stage. Without saying names, so that was good, because I definitely thought he was going to be like, so Chad has a small... penis, and
I've seen it because I see so many penises.
Well, I mean, saying that steroids, because steroids are supposed to shrink it, so yeah, I don't think he ever explicitly said that on the show. I'm 90% certain he said that on the stage. So that was not good.
And like, Alex egged him on, okay? So Alex is here in the background, and we know from our last video that Alex has this... He's like the main rivalry with Chad. He's like...
He definitely had more against Chad going into this,
than
at least that we've seen.
Yeah.
Then definitely
and like
than
no
Evan.
one liked Chad, but Alex was getting like angry about it. Like angry that Chad even existed. And so he's here, and Evan's like, hey, Alex, I'm gonna, like, tell a story about Chad. It'll be, like, funny and stuff. And Alex is like, do it, bro.
That's the best idea you've ever had.
Chest bomb. And so Evan tells his little story, and, like, it is a bad idea in The Bachelorette and Bachelor to attack someone else.
Yeah.
Evan would have been 10,000 times better off letting Chad dig his own grave than going and attacking him, because Evan was just doing his own thing. Like,
well, I mean, I think at that point it wasn't that bad because it was just a story and he didn't say anything about Chad. But then Chad knew it was about him and pulled his shirt, and that was kind of a little bit terrifying.
Yeah, like, just to get physical at all. It doesn't matter that, like, Evan wasn't hurt. He, like, grabbed him.
Yeah, and then backstage, because the last thing was Chad attempting to kiss Jojo, and her...
like, not having it.
She was like... like, she so dodged that.
Jojo.
And then he couldn't get the microphone back into the stand. Just saying it's kind of...
could not get it in.
It's hysterical. It's a little bit hysterical.
In any way, shape, or
It's a very great serendipity that he couldn't kiss Jojo and couldn't get the mic back in the stand.
Yeah.
So then he goes backstage and he pushes Evan, which I would think that this show would have a zero tolerance policy, and that would make him go home. But it didn't. Like, I've seen other reality television shows where you put your hand anywhere near someone.
And that's it.
And you go home. So it's really confusing to me that he's staying there and they're just putting security guards at the house.
A security guard that clearly could not take on Chad.
At all. Maybe he has a taser.
Maybe he has a taser.
But I feel like Chad would just, like, Hulk out of that taser and, like...
Tasers have no effect on roid rage Chad. But yeah, and then, so Evan's story initially, where he would have been better off, maybe not, like, it was innocent enough. He was like, oh, everyone hates him, so I'm gonna poke a little fun.
Yeah.
And, like, Chad insanely overreacted.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, Evan decides he can't leave well enough alone. Like, this guy got physical with you already, so why don't you continue to poke his belly button?
Yeah.
Like,
just everything.
Yeah.
Every single choice that Evan has made during this episode and Chad has made during this episode makes me angry and makes me want both of them to go home. And it's not like that's a love loss. Like, I never liked Evan and I never liked Chad.
Yeah.
But it's really just, like, so annoying. And Chad is really terrifying me. He walks and he listens in. They show him listening in on every conversation and making a comment about it, which also bugs me because we don't hear the conversation. We hear Chad's voiceover of what his idea of the conversation is and how terribly it's going while they're talking. And I'm like, well, what are they talking about? Is anything happening between them?
Yeah, we don't know.
We have no idea. Like, I don't really remember any of the conversations that she had on the group date with those guys.
I had one note about Jordan, but that was it. And that was...
What did you say about Jordan? Because I also had a note about Jordan.
I said that with him, it always just seems to be smooth.
Mm-hmm.
I just never sense any awkwardness because I feel like they both know that they really like each other.
Yeah.
And it's never like Jordan has to prove that he likes her or has to try and get her to like him more. So it's always just kind of more of a natural thing more than with other guys where other guys are like, I just want you to know that I'm like here for the right reasons and like she doesn't need to hear that from him.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so to go off on this kind of tangent, I don't remember what his and Jordan's conversation was about tonight, but there was an interview with him before they showed his conversation with her, and he said, I know that we have this thing, but I need to change my tactic and show her vulnerability. And I felt like that was a little bit manipulative. Like, I just kind of got bad vibes from it.
Really?
And maybe it's because I've seen, like, a couple of articles online that he's there to be the next Bachelor. And, like, he thinks that he has the best story to be the next Bachelor because he's, like, the quarterback's brother and all this stuff. So maybe that's why it rubbed me the wrong way. And maybe if I hadn't been seeing those things, it wouldn't have bothered me at all. Like, you haven't seen those things, and you didn't pick up on it. But I was like, I don't feel comfortable with him saying, I'm going to change my tactic. Like, instead of being like, I feel like I can open up with her.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I hope that it's not... I hope it's not a Brooks situation, because the very first episode I mentioned that, and I hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah. So back to some of the drama. You know, one thing that I think is really interesting is that Chad keeps telling people that Evan pushed him.
Yeah.
And Evan hasn't had a chance to either defend that or own up to that because Evan doesn't know that Chad is telling people this.
Yeah.
Or I do think there was that one time where he was like, I didn't push you, but then Chad kept telling that to people.
Yeah.
That that's what Evan was doing. And Evan doesn't have the capability of going to Chris Harrison or going to Jojo and saying, I didn't push him.
Yeah.
Because Chad is saying that that's what he did. And I mean, it's not like we could tell from that they had, so it's not like we can say, oh, he did or he didn't.
And at the very least, what I can imagine is that Evan, and this is just what I'm insinuating, because I can imagine that Evan was trying to get back to his seat and bumped Chad.
Yeah.
And Chad was like, oh, he pushed me. Like, that's now an excuse for him to get physical.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine Evan, after doing his little speech thing, being like, to Chad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Evan has to know that he couldn't take Chad in a fight.
No.
And there's also that thing, like, after doing that, I would be so nervous, and my one focus would be on getting back to my seat, and Chad was like, I said to him, let me go out, and then you sit down, but I could see just being like,
yeah,
I need to sit down, like, I need to be in my seat where I'm safe, and no one can punch me or hit me or anything.
Yeah.
So maybe Evan should have just stepped back and let Chad come out and seen what happened then.
Yeah.
But now it's a little bit wishy-washy with Chad having the story that Evan pushed him, which could absolutely be true.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it is, but there's definitely a possibility that it could be.
Yeah. I mean, Evan, from what we've seen this episode, does actually have a more of an aggressive, like, instigator type thing going on, where he'll start something and then play the victim. Because he knows Chad will react in the way that he does react. So he's instigating.
Yeah.
And that's what you can't.
And he also, sorry, I just splashed water in my eye. Hold on one second.
She's coming back, folks.
Okay, sorry guys. So he also then goes, and, you know, Chad is, like, doing all this stuff and trying to interrupt a conversation and, like, rolling the chair across the floor, and Chad is making enough of a villain of himself. And then he's talking with Jojo, and Evan goes and interrupts that conversation, and then talks with Jojo, and says, like, basically gives her an ultimatum that he's leaving or Chad's leaving, and she needs to decide.
Yeah.
And I think that was the worst plan. Like, unless something has happened with him and her that he thinks that he has enough pull to do something like that, like, that's something maybe Jordan could do.
Yeah.
Or maybe James Taylor could do.
Yeah.
Like, I think those two and no one else.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous that he did that.
It's, yeah. It shows a certain sense of, like, arrogance.
Yeah.
In that, like, okay, we all know Chad is a jerk, but you don't know what they're talking about, and like you.
And I feel almost like if Chad weren't there, Evan would be the villain that we're focusing on.
Yeah.
Because he has that, like, I mean, yeah, Chad is a jerk, but he keeps going after him and attacking him in ways that, like, none of the other guys are doing.
Yeah.
And they all see the same thing.
Yeah.
They're, like, smart enough to know that they should sit back and not give ultimatums and things like that. Which I think also brings us to Alex. Because Alex was at that point where he was standing, like, I mean, on a step-up box to be able to be face-to-face with Chad. And he didn't punch him. And then this episode, we know that Alex hates Chad. But he's just sitting back and watching this with a smile on his face because Evan is self-destructing and Chad is self-destructing. And he is completely clear of it. So, like, Evan got the rose on the date, which I thought was entirely shocking because, like, what? Um,
Which you mentioned while we were watching that maybe was because Jojo was not ready. Personally, I think, didn't want to send Chad home yet because she's still figuring him out, but didn't want to seem like she was choosing Chad over Evan because that would make her, I feel like, she knows all the guys don't like Chad.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to seem like a poor judge of character that she would send Evan home, but not Chad.
Yeah.
So she gave Evan the rose, like you said, as an incentive to stay, even though she'll keep Chad.
Yeah, and almost like, almost seeing if he would keep that ultimatum if she were to give him the rose, but not give Chad the rose. Which he clearly doesn't. He's like, yeah, I love you. Let's stay. Give me the rose.
Yeah.
Like, so clearly at that point, it's not that big a deal to him.
Yeah.
That Chad is still there. But then the next day it is. Whatever. Anyway. Yeah. But Alex is just letting it fly over him.
Seriously. Because if Evan hadn't stepped into that position, Alex, I feel, would be there, being the one. Mm-hmm. What did he say? There was a point where they were all in the house and Evan was talking to Chad and they were all going at Chad.
Mm-hmm.
All of them were. And, like, calling him, you know, brawn over brain and all this different...
I hope it's not a spelling contest tomorrow.
All of this... And what do they expect Chad to do? They know he's an angry guy. They were all attacking him at that point. Sorry. It's all good. But yeah, so... Yeah, I guess a lot of what Chad does is instigated at least a little bit.
Yeah. He just doesn't have any way of handling it, and he's already, like, a jerk.
Yeah.
We know that from his confessionals, because it's not like he's just a jerk to the guys. He's a jerk in the confessionals as well. And then they're just like, ooh, let's see how far we can push him now that he's being a jerk in this situation.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we need to cover?
Well, they aren't going to have the cocktail party. They're going to instead have the pool party. And then all of the other drama goes down where Evan goes out to talk with Chris, and then Chris pulls Chad out, and then Chad walks back into the room, and the episode is over.
Yeah.
So that's basically all for the episode, but now we have our moments of the episode. So first off, we'll do douchebag moment.
Okay. Actually, I'm sorry. Can we start with drama moment?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because my douchebag moment comes from my drama moment, and my drama moment was when Evan got the rose. Because where there were a lot of moments with Chad where you were like, oh my god, and a lot of drama surrounding him, I think that the most shocking thing that happened was when Evan got the rose, because I thought she was breaking up with him, sending him home 100%.
Like, there were a lot of confrontational moments that were drama, but that was definitely the thing where I was like, what? He got the what?
How about you?
My drama moment was Evan asking to speak with Chris. When he said that they were going to have the pool party and going outside and talking with him.
Because that's just another thing that Evan...
Yeah, that's just... He should not have done that. He has the rose. Chad is on his way to going home. There's no reason at that point to go and get Chris, because Chris knows what's happening. There's no way that as soon as Chad shoved Evan, one of the producers did not, or one of the cameramen or whatever, did not go and tell Chris that someone was shoved. Like, there's no way that they don't tell them that. Like, no one told Jojo.
Yeah.
But the people who are running the show know what happened. So I don't think there was any reason for Evan to go tell him.
No.
And basically, like, I don't want to say cry about it because he wasn't like, meh, but he was like, I don't feel safe and like whatever. Like, no one cares, Evan. Yeah. They put security guards in the house, which is stupid. They should just send someone home if they're at the point where they're putting security guards in the house to begin with. But clearly they've taken care of the situation in the way that they think is correct. And they aren't just going to send Chad home because you say he ripped my shirt.
And then at the end of the episode there, like you were saying, Chris Harrison pulls Chad then outside and is like, Chad, I think you need to confront Evan. Meanwhile, Chad, already enraged, goes like, I'm gonna rip their arms and legs off and throw their torsos in the pool.
I think that was the worst thing Chris Harrison should have done. Like, there are security guards at the house. Clearly, they don't think that Chad is in a place where he should not have a security guard around him. So why would Chris Harrison think it's okay to be like, why not you think of a way to approach Evan?
Because Chad is definitely going to be like, yeah, I think I should have punched him. He's going to punch him.
Or even just, like, talk to him like a human being. He's clearly just, his way of approaching is punching. He punched a door, right? They kept bringing that up. I don't remember seeing it, but, like...
Like, Chad basically is like, Chris Harrison told me to fight this guy. Like,
Chris Harrison handed me the shank and said to stab you and murder you. So, and Chris Harrison's like, that's not what I said.
We have it on camera. Yeah. But anyway, so
douchebag moment of the episode.
For me, that was when so Evan gets the rose and Jojo comes back and Chad goes, is this a real life situation? Like, is this real? Are you actually vibing this guy? And Jojo's like, shut up. I don't like the way, like, Chad does a lot of bad things, but he actually was like, wait, you like him?
Yeah.
Which is like,
this is like Evan and Chad just like standing next to each other, digging graves that they think is for the other person, but really it's for themselves.
Yeah.
Because, like, he could have definitely just played the victim there instead of then throwing Jojo under the bus and being like, Jojo, what the fuck? Like, he could have just been like, okay, and kept it in, and then maybe confronted her about it not in front of everyone.
Yeah, and maybe played
and not
smart,
as, like a douchebag, which is why it's your douchebag moment. He could have taken it in a different way and been like, oh, so I see you chose Evan.
But I thought we had a good conversation. You obviously didn't, but...
yeah, or like, you know, I thought when I talked to you about him, you understood that he's not this guy that you think he is, or something along those lines.
Something, that didn't make... Like, he attacked Jojo, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, he attacked her decision-making and her...
Yeah.
Like, yeah, whatever.
and basically her feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you didn't have a romance moment.
Well, I have a douchebag moment.
Oh, you have a yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I'm sorry, I forgot.
So I said Chad, in his conversation with Jojo, telling Jojo that he didn't want to go on the date.
That's a good one.
Because it's not as bad as... We did actually tell each other the moments beforehand, so I was looking through all of the other ones that I had. So it's not as bad as him confronting her about that. But at the same time, it's like, I didn't want to participate in this thing to get to know you better because it wasn't just one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to bother with it, basically, because... whatever.
I can't interact with other men.
Yeah.
So I'm a giant testosterone-filled something or other.
So yeah, I didn't have a romance moment because I guess I was just too distracted by everything else, and I was trying to find something, but I just wasn't blown away by anything.
Yeah.
This episode.
I had a hard time with it too because there wasn't a lot. But I had to go with on the first one-on-one date, the kiss with Chase because
entitled kiss. Yeah.
It was like steamy and stuff, and I thought that it was a nice end to something that started out awkward. And it didn't feel like forced, even though they kind of did force them into that position.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But it came from like a natural place. They weren't like, oh, we should probably kiss now. Like they were there for a while, and then I think they were like vibing it.
Yeah,
and
for sure. So we don't have anyone eliminated yet.
Yeah, we can't cross off
any of these
beautiful faces and.
But who do you think will get eliminated next episode tomorrow?
Well, I think they're building this up for Chad to be kicked off. Either through the rose ceremony or from punching someone in the face.
Okay.
But the person I think she's gonna send home that wouldn't be Chad, I think is... I have 3 because I really can't tell, but I feel like they haven't showed her interact at all with Vinny, Daniel, or Ollie. So I think it could be 1, maybe 2 of them because we don't know how many she's going to send home.
Yeah, I put down Daniel and Vinny. I didn't put down Chad because now that you say it, maybe it does seem that way. Like, it would be over, because it's like...
It's this 2-block...
Yeah. The Chad episodes.
Yeah.
And then the Chad Chronicles will end. That makes sense to me. But, yeah. I didn't put down Ali. They haven't interacted at all, but... because I love him. Yeah, I mean, he's amazing, and I love him. And I don't want But they haven't talked at all. And I think he's, like, one of, like, 4 people who she hasn't talked with, Vinny and Daniel being 2 of the others, and then I probably don't even know the face of the third one of those, so... oh well. But, yeah, so, other than that, our connection count came to 6 today. Yep. 6 Which I think is the same as last week. I think so. Although we may have missed 1 or 2 last week because a possibility. We came in late. But... maybe this time too, but we're not always tuned in to the connections. Yeah, we need to work on that. For you. For you. But tune in tomorrow once again for the 2nd installment of this week's Bachelorette because they couldn't fit it all in 1 episode this time. And please check us out on Twitter because we'll be live tweeting and we're at Such a Connection. And it's going to be fabulous. Yep. See you there. We'll be back tomorrow.